So, in this lecture session 2, we are going to demonstrate the topic on thyristor turn-on methods. Before going into this lecture session, we should recall the previous session in which we have studied the VI characteristics of thyristor, in which we had found that the thyristor can be turned on by application of the huge amount of anode voltage that is above VBO or forward breakover voltage without application of the gate. And when the device starts conducting and the device current or anode current which will reach latching current, that is IL, then we can say the device is under on state. Okay, so keep it in your mind from the previous session, that is the thyristor can be turned on by application of the huge forward biasing voltage above VBO without using gate pulse. Okay. Now we are going to demonstrate the topic on thyristor turn-on process. Actually, there are 5 types of turn-on methods are there. Number 1, forward voltage triggering. Number 2, gate triggering. Number 3, DVDT triggering. Number 4, temperature triggering and light triggering. And the first is forward voltage triggering, and that is very easy to understand. Already we had discussed in the previous session. That is, when the anode is more positive, when the anode is more positive with respect to cathode, then we can say the device is under forward biasing condition. Okay, and here we are not applied any gate signal across gate. Then what happened? See, then current try to flow from anode to cathode in this direction, but there is a tendency to formation of depletion layer across junction J2. That is why current cannot conduct easily. Okay, suppose we are increasing the biasing voltage with an higher value, then the depletion layer of the junction J2 will be decreases and it provide more leakage current. That means it will provide little bit anode current, that is very negligible amount. Suppose again we are increasing the biasing voltage, that means the depletion layer will be reduced again, and when the biasing voltage will reach just above the forward breakover voltage or VBO, then the depletion layer across junction J2 are vanished due to avalanche breakdown of the majority carriers. Then the device is under working state or device is under on state. Then the current can easily conduct throughout the device from anode to cathode easily. So this is called forward voltage triggering. So in this particular case, we can conclude that by application of the anode voltage to a huge amount and which will cross the forward breakover voltage, without any gate pulse the device can start working. Device can be in on state. So this is all about for the forward voltage triggering. Now gate triggering. In this case, we consider the basic structure which is having 4 layers P, N, P and N and 3 junctions J1, J2, J3 and 3 terminals anode, cathode and gate. Our topic is gate triggering. Okay, that means we should apply the gate pulse across the device. First, the question is arise, why the gate is so much important for SCR? See, suppose, let me put an example. Suppose the specification of any SCR is given, the breakover voltage of SCR VBO, suppose that is given 800 volt. And the normal working voltage is supplied, that is suppose 400 volt. So how, so in which way the device can be conducted? Actually, as per the normal specification of the device cannot be conducted until we are applied the anode voltage above 800 volt. But still, the device can be conducted in case of the application of the 400 volt if we are using some gate signal across gate. Suppose, assume the gate is more positive with respect to cathode, as well as the device is forward biased. That means anode is more positive with respect to cathode, and suppose anode voltage is given just 400 volt, not 800 volt. Now we are increasing the gate signal. Then what happen? If the gate is more positive with respect to cathode, then it try to attract more electrons from upper N region and bottom N region. Let me discuss it in details. We know the majority carrier of p layer is holes, and N layer, that is electrons and electrons. That means whenever the gate is more positive with respect to cathode, that means the gate terminal which is directly connected to this p layer try to attract the electrons from upper N layer and from bottom N layer in this way. That means what happened? That means the electron density is increases across the gate terminal as well as to the p layer. Okay, if the electron concentration is increases, that means the density of the majority carrier across the junction J2 is increases. That means depletion layer of the junction J2 should be decreased. Okay, suppose we are again increasing the gate current across gate terminal, that means it will more attract, it can attract more electrons from upper N and lower N region. That means again the electron density is increased with an higher value. Once what happened? The width of the depletion layer across the junction J2 will be vanished. Okay. Under normal working condition, as we have applied 400 volt to the cathode. That means if we applied 400 volt to the cathode, and by application of the small amount of voltage or biasing voltage across the gate terminal, the device is under working state. Then the anode current can easily flow from anode to cathode in this direction. That means we can conclude this without application of the gate terminal, the breakover voltage is so much high. For this purpose, that is around 800 volt. But by using the gate terminal, gate biasing voltage, the application of the voltage that is very small in magnitude, which can be worked under normal working condition 400 volt. That means suppose again we are increasing the biasing, suppose again we are increasing the gate current, that means the device can be worked under low voltage, suppose can be 300 volt or 200 volt and so on. That means if we are increasing gate current, then the breakover voltage that should be decreased. Similarly, it can be reflected on the VI characteristics also. So let me discuss it. First, erase the part. So now we can understand how it can give an effect on VI characteristics. So we all know the VI characteristics of the SCR in forward biasing condition, which we had discussed in the previous session. It will start from this one. Very small amount of leakage current starts flowing. This is plus VA. This is plus IA, anode current, and this is anode voltage. And the device starts conducting in this way, right? So in this particular case, we consider there is no application of the gate voltage. That is why we can consider the breakover voltage, that is VBO of this particular SCR, where we are not implemented the gate signal. But in this gate firing case or method of turn on process, we have implemented the gate signal. Suppose we can consider not for application of the gate signal, the breakover voltage was, that is 800 volt. Now we are increasing the, now suppose we are applied the gate signal across gate, that means the breakover voltage should be reduced in this way. again we are increasing the gate current, again the breakover voltage should be decreased in this way. So we can define it. This is suppose the new value of breakover voltage, suppose V1. In the first case, that is Ig was 0, maximum breakover voltage. Next case, if we are increasing Ig 1, then the breakover voltage is V1. Similarly, suppose we are increasing Ig again, suppose Ig2, the breakover voltage is suppose V2. In this way, if we are increasing the gate current, the breakover voltage can be decreased. That is suppose V3. So, by this phenomena, we can conclude that if we are increasing the gate current, the breakover voltage should be decreased. So, we can correlate this relation, that is Ig3, Ig2 is less than from Ig3 and Ig1 is less than from Ig2. That means the breakover voltage V3 that should be less than V2 and less than V1. So we can conclude we are increasing the gate current, the breakover voltage of the thyristor should be reduced. That means in any specification of the thyristor, we can be work under normal working voltage, but we should apply the appropriate amount of triggering pulse across gate. Additionally, one more important part is the types of gate signals. So let me erase those. There are three types of gate signals are available. Number one, that is DC gate signal. Number two, AC gate signal. Number three, that is pulse type gate signal. So what is DC gate signal? That means we know DC has a constant magnitude. Okay? That means when the DC gate signal is given to the gate, then the device starts working or device becomes in on state. Suppose we are removing the gate signal from gate, then the device can be in off state. That is a drawback for using the DC gate signal. As well as if the DC gate signal is given across gate to cathode terminal, it produces more losses, as well as the DVDT stress of the switch can be increased, which can be overcome by using AC gate signal. And we know in case of AC gate signal, there is a particular pattern, right? That means in case of AC from 0 degree, it has a very less in magnitude. And once we are increasing the angle, the magnitude should be increased. That means in a particular value, when the AC voltage will reach the maximum value, maybe the thyristor will be turned on. That means before that, there is no question for high DVDT stress, and it produces less amount of loss across gate to cathode terminal. That is why this AC gate signal is normally used for industry purpose. And next one is pulse type gate signal. That means if we need high frequency switching for any kind of converter circuit, then we can give a very small in width, a pulse can be given to the gate. That means when the pulse is being activated and to the gate, then the gate starts working and the device starts working. When the pulse is not there, then the device stops working. Again, when the pulse is given across gate, that means if we can give the pulse train across gate, due to which the device starts working with high frequency switching. So that is why if any converter circuit, if we need the appropriate amount of or required amount of the controlled or regulated output voltage and current, then the pulse train is implemented to the gate terminal. So this is all about for the nature of the gate signal which has to be given to the gate. Now for the third method, method, that is DVDT triggering. Okay, it is very interesting thing. See, so here consider the same structure of SCR, where this is anode, this is cathode, and this is gate terminal. Okay, DVDT terms, that means the rate of change of voltage or anode voltage. Suppose we are increasing the anode voltage slowly and gradually, then we will achieve some breakover voltage, that is suppose VBO. And suppose consider we are not increasing the anode voltage gradually, you are increasing the anode voltage very frequently or suddenly, then you will record the VBO or forward breakover voltage that should be less than before. That means if we are increasing the anode voltage gradually, it will provide us a big breakover voltage or huge breakover voltage. Suppose we are changing the anode voltage very fast or very frequent or suddenly, then it will give us a very small magnitude of anode breakover voltage. Okay, so how can it possible? See, if we are increasing the anode voltage more positive with respect to cathode gradually, then there is a tendency to formation and depletion layer across junction J2. Once this anode voltage will reach above the breakover voltage of the thyristor, then the depletion layer will be vanished across junction J2 and the current does easily conduct throughout the device. Okay, now think about this. Suppose we are increasing the anode voltage very fastly or very frequently. That means there is a tendency of capacitive effect across junction J2. Okay, how can it possible? We know that is the majority carrier of the P, that is holes, and the majority carrier of N layer, that is electron, and for P hole and for N electron. If we are increasing the anode voltage very suddenly or very frequently, then a few amount of immobile charges are confined across junction J2. Suppose this is all immobile charges that is confined across the junction J2. That means it is a kind of parallel plate capacitor. That means junction J2 then behaving like a capacitor. And the total voltage that is applied across anode to cathode, that is actually confined across junction J2, which is called VA. That means we can consider this junction J2 as a capacitor, then the capacitor voltage is defined by VA. Okay, and when we think the junction J2 as a capacitor, then a leakage capacitive current try to flow across junction J2, which is defined by suppose IC or capacitor current, that is suppose IC. So from frequent change of the anode voltage, what happened? This capacitor current IC, we can write the expression like dq dt, where Q is the charge which is accumulated across junction J2, which is nothing but that is d dt of Cj into Va. That means voltage appearing across junction J2 and the junction capacitance of J2, that is Cj. So after derivative we can have that is Cj into dVa dt plus Va into dCj dt. So see the term very carefully. There is a two terms we have reached, that is Cj into dV dt and Va Cga dt. And in this particular case, we know this capacitor Cj that should be constant for the particular junction J2, and it depends on the doping concentration of the thyristor, and that is specified by the manufacturer only. So we can consider this junction capacitor that is constant, and constant of some derivative part that will provide you 0. So we can rewrite the expression that is the leakage current of the capacitor junction J2 that should be equal to IC equal to Cj into dVA dt. That means we can conclude this, the IC actually depends on the rate of change of rate of change of voltage which is appearing across the anode. That not depends of anode voltage, that depends on rate of change of voltage, means V dV dt. That is why we can say it is behaving like a gate, but we are not using any gate signal across gate, but only we are changing the anode voltage suddenly or very frequently. It is behaving like a gate triggering. That is why then the thyristor starts conducting without any disturbance, and the current can easily conducted from anode to cathode. So this is all about for the DVT triggering. So we can conclude from this phenomena, that is why somehow the device conduction depends on rate of change of voltage applying across the anode, not only the magnitude of the anode voltage. It is similarly possible if we are increasing the huge amount of anode voltage gradually and changing is gradually, then the device can be under on state. As on the other hand, if we are implemented very small amount of anode voltage across anode, but the voltage changes very frequently or suddenly, but still it is will be in on state. That means here the rate of change of anode voltage is just behaving like a gate terminal voltage. That is why we can say this is DVDT triggering. Okay, fine. Next is temperature triggering. This is very interesting part that is actually happening inside the device. During forward blocking state, most of the applied voltage appears across a reversed bias junction J2. Just I had discussed before. We know the normal construction of the SCR, that is having 3 junctions J1, J2 and J3 and 4 layers P, N, P and N and 3 terminals anode. This is cathode and this is gate. That means whenever we are applied the forward biasing across the device, means the anode is more positive with respect to cathode, then the device current try to conduct in this direction. In this particular case, as the junction J1 and the junction J2 both are in forward biasing condition, but on the other hand only the junction J2 is in reverse biasing condition. That is why it is working as a resistance. We know this is similar to a PN junction barrier. That is why if we are increasing the more biasing voltage, that means it will develop more heat across this junction. The heat means is the external energy. That means when the junction is able to create more amount of heat, then the surrounding charges which gets excited by the external energy in terms of heat. That is why it try to move in randomly in any direction and it will collide the other charges, and then it will provide more charges and the upper orbit of the means charge. That is why it is a cumulative process. So we can conclude, if the temperature is increased, that means the width of the depletion layer that should be decreased. That means it increases the leakage current, right? That means if the leakage current is increases, then again the temperature will be increased again. If the temperature is increased again, then again the question for the reduction of the depletion layer. That means it is a kind of cumulative process. And once the depletion layer is completely vanished, that is why the device is under working condition or on state. So this is all about for temperature triggering. So it can be happen internally automatically due to presence of the high temperature across the junction or resistive effect across the junction J2. The device starts conducting and it will remaining in on state without application any gate signal. Okay. is a very important thing, that is temperature triggering. Okay, but it can be controlled by using the proper cooling device, unless somehow the temperature will arise with a maximum amount, due to which the junction J2 can be permanently, this junction J2 can be permanently damaged. To recover it, proper heat sink should be incorporated for this purpose. Next and last is, that is light triggering. This is very interesting part. Here the gate is not present, so gate terminal is not there. Just a hole type thing is there, through which actually the light should be entered to the P layer of this particular case. And we know the energy is imported by radiation, and radiation means a flow of electron and protons. The thyristor is bombarded by those energy particles, then it is working as a gate firing circuit. That means without help of any external energy and any external gate terminal, the electron and hole pair are generated due to huge amount of external energy which is taken from the light. That is why it can produce the huge amount of, means majority carrier, or the majority carrier, the density of the majority carrier can be increased by the collision internally. That is why it will provide a huge amount of avalanche. That is a process is called, suppose, avalanche, and due to this avalanche, there is a huge amount of carrier charges will be increased inside the P layer and the N layer. That is why the depletion layer across the junction J2 will be reduced, and once it will be vanished. That is why the device then starts working in the forward direction without any disturbance. That means in this particular case there is a no gate signal, light itself working as a gate. Okay, because it provides a more amount of energy externally to excite the internal or charges, and to achieve the internal external energy, the charges try to move in any direction randomly. That is why it collide to other charges and it will form another two charge. That is why this is a kind of, the process is called, again, that is called actually, the means it's a cumulative process, and it is a kind of avalanche. That is why avalanche breakdown occurred across the junction J2, and the depletion layer of the junction J2 will be vanished and the device will be under on state. Is a good example, that is LASCR. This kind of thyristor is called light activated silicon control rectifier. I repeat, light activated silicon control rectifier, or laser. This is a good example for this kind of thyristor or SCR. So this is all about for the triggering methods for SCR. So next class we are going to discuss about the gate characteristics of SCR. Okay. So we are going to end this session. Thanks to all for your kind support and investing your time. Thank you.